Hello everyone and welcome to the second video of our Intro to Demand series. Again, we are working in Unit 2, and I like to paraphrase the Unit 2, the unit essential question if you will, as figuring out why does stuff cost, what stuff cost. In other words, we are studying supply and demand, and we're beginning with demand, and that's how you figure out why stuff costs, what stuff costs. Now in last night's video I pointed out the standard down there to you and how that is a monstrous standard, and we're going to spend about 3 weeks working with that one single standard because there is a lot to cover in supply and demand. Because think about it, it's a complicated idea. Why does stuff cost? What stuff costs? There's a lot to it. Now, I'd like you guys to go ahead and whatever you're doing, go ahead and get comfortable, have some coffee, get some popcorn, whatever you need to do. This is going to be a somewhat longer video. The next few videos are going to be longer, not because I don't value your free time after school, but because it's just the nature of this material. It's a little bit more difficult and there's more material to cover. So let's get to it, not waste any time. All right, we have one LEQ. How do the real income effect, substitution effect, and diminishing marginal utility, what a mouthful, how do they relate to the law of demand? Now, once again, I like to point out this little graph down here. We have two arms, arm wrestling, supply and demand, a little leprechaun-looking guy on top with a level on his head. I'll be explaining that to you in about 2 weeks. Now, before we get into our LEQ, I want to do a very quick review of last night's homework video. So we covered voluntary exchange, and one thing I want to point out to you guys, that voluntary exchange only exists in a market economy, more specifically a pure market economy. Again, voluntary exchange would not exist in a traditional or command economy, and here's why. It's the word voluntary. Voluntary, freedom. I freely get to choose if I want to purchase something with my money. For example, Foot Locker. Foot Locker, with no impediment or no directive by the government, gets to say, I'm going to sell this pair of Jordans for $189.99. They get to freely choose to do that. Whereas myself, I can come in and say, I freely choose to exchange my personal $189.99 for this pair of Jordans. Now remember, for a voluntary exchange to work, both the buyer and the seller must believe that they are better off, that is, richer or happier after the exchange than before. Now, most of the people watching this video are born and raised in America, and we listen to this, we're like, yeah, duh. We take it for granted. It makes sense to us because it's the way we've always done things. But in the past, and still in other parts of the world and other types of economic systems, traditional command economies, this concept of voluntary exchange simply does not exist. Now, the way that economists study voluntary exchange, that is, figuring out why stuff costs, what stuff costs, the way we study that is through supply and demand. And for the next few nights, we are covering demand. Now, demand, quick refresher, a consumer's willingness and ability to buy a product. And the law of demand, as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. As price goes down, quantity demanded goes up. That's called an inverse relationship. It's the opposite. As one goes up, the other goes down. I'd like to clarify something for you guys. So saying the word quantity demanded 100 times a day gets pretty old even for you guys. So henceforth in class and in the videos, we're going to be abbreviating quantity demanded as QD. So when you hear me say QD or QD is on a quiz, I'm referring to quantity demanded. Now, before moving on, one thing I want you guys to know, that quantity demanded can only be impacted by price. Now again, think about the law of demand. Quantity demanded can only be impacted by a change in price. All right. So we've been talking about it long enough, and now it's time to start graphing it, see what it looks like visually. There is a lot of graphing when it comes to supply and demand. Okay, so I like to show you what a demand graph looks like. Here we go. Doop, doop. Our y-axis is price, our x-axis is quantity demanded. Are you all ready to have your minds blown? Here is what a demand curve looks like. That's it. That's supposed to be a straight line. Now, when you get to college level economics, as you're going on to get PhDs in business and so forth, it's actually a demand curve. That is, the line is actually curved. We get into like calculus and stuff like that there, but we're not going to worry about that in high school economics. It is supposed to be a straight line. So guys, that's it. That is called a demand curve. That's a graph of demand. Now think about this. The law of demand applies here. Let's take this price. Let's pretend we're talking about I don't know. Let's pretend we're talking about basketballs. Yeah, basketballs. All right. Let's say this is the price of basketball. Again, I used to teach math, but for economics, I'm more concerned about the bigger idea, so we don't have to necessarily fret about the numbers over here. But if it makes you happier, let's do 0, 5, 10, and 15. And yeah, I'm just making these up. Quantity demanded, 0, 5, 10, and 15. These numbers are made up. I'm not too concerned about numbers. Okay, so at a price of $10, economists would estimate that the quantity demanded for basketballs would be 5. All right, cool. Now let's apply the law of demand. Let's say the price lowers to $5. According to the law of demand, the quantity demanded should go up. Let's see what happens. Doop, 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 doop. It's not going to line up perfectly because of my terrible handwriting, but we can see that when the price lowered, the quantity demanded did indeed go up. Let's do another example. All right, example number 2. We have our nice pretty lines, P for price, QD for quantity demanded, and here is my demand curve. Yeah, it's supposed to be a straight line. Let's do the quantity demanded for Jordans. Yeah, Jordans. So we're going to do the price up here. Jordans are going to be $200. You crazy people who pay that much for shoes. What's wrong with you? All right, so again, don't concern yourself with the numbers. We're just doing this for the sake of example. So let's say that Foot Locker charges $200 for a pair of Jordans. And at that price point, they can expect to sell 10, per week. Again, I made that up. So if Foot Locker lowers the price of Jordans from $200 to $100, I'm willing to bet that the quantity demanded is going to go up. And look, that did happen. When they lowered the price, the quantity demanded did indeed go up. All right, so the graphs get more complicated than that, I promise you, but that's a good basic introduction to graphing a demand curve. Okay, so now that you've seen how demand is shown on a graph, the next question that comes to mind is, okay, well, Mr. Jarrett, what causes that? Why is there an inverse relationship between price and quantity demand? Again, it makes sense to us. It's like, duh, stuff gets more expensive, people buy less of it. But there are actually economic reasons, mathematical reasons why that inverse relationship is explained. So there are 3 factors that affect the price, which explains the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So again, there are 3 factors that explain why price impacts quantity demanded. These 3 factors are the real income effect, substitution effect, and diminishing marginal utility. So think about all of the reasons in the world that price could go up or down. They can be quantified by these 3 factors: real income effect, substitution effect, and diminishing marginal utility. And we're talking about quantity demanded here. All right, so let's do the real income effect. So here's the real income effect in a nutshell. Individuals cannot keep buying the same quantity of a good or service if its price rises while their income stays the same. I mean, think about that. That also makes sense. At my current, middle-class American income, I have a certain way of life. But if the things I enjoy doing all go up in price, unless my income goes up in price, I will no longer be able to afford them, or I will have to afford less of them. So again, the law of demand applies. As the price went up, my personal quantity demanded for those items went down because, again, here's the 3 factors that explain the inverse relationship, because my income stayed the same. So I personally love chicken wings. If I continue to make my current salary and everything else remains the same, if the cost of chicken wings goes up, I will have to buy less chicken wings. So that is the real income effect. Now, if the price of everything goes down, or the price of some things go down, the price of something you like to purchase goes down, and your income remains the same, the law of demand also applies. Price went down, you may be able to purchase more of what you like. If chicken wings become cheaper in price, heck yes, my quantity demanded for them will go up. Now here's the substitution effect. This is another very prominent one in American society. So the substitution effect is an economic rule stating that if 2 items satisfy the same need or want, and if the price of one arises, people will buy the other. So think substitutes, 2 things that serve the same purpose. So substitutes are 2 things that serve the same purpose. So keeping along with this chicken wing example, I know some of you may disagree with me, but let's just pretend that me personally, I think chicken wings and hot dogs are substitutes. I both like them. I don't always eat unhealthy, but when I do, it's either chicken wings or hot dogs. So I consider them substitutes. So if the cost of chicken wings increases, I will buy hot dogs instead. So that causes my quantity demanded for chicken wings to decrease because the price increased. And instead, my quantity demanded for hot dogs will increase. That's the substitution effect. And our final factor that explains the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded is diminishing marginal utility. Whew! Diminishing marginal utility. I dare you guys after this video, try to integrate diminishing marginal utility in your everyday speech. People are either going to think you're insane and speaking a different language, or they will give you props for sounding so incredibly smart. So without any economic understanding of what diminishing marginal utility is, let's just take a look at like the dictionary definition. Let's break this word apart and see if we can figure out, get an idea of what it means. So diminishing. So without even looking in the dictionary, diminishing. So if something diminishes, that means it becomes less and less. I think we all can agree there. Now marginal is a little bit harder to think about. So I think of margins, I think of like on the edge or borderline. Think about the margins on a sheet of paper. And then we have utility. So utility is using something for something. Now, there is an economic definition of utility. The economic definition of utility, this is something I want you guys to know. I'm not just throwing this in here randomly. The economic definition of utility is the ability of any good or service to satisfy consumer wants or needs. So I get a lot of utility out of my truck because it provides me the service of transporting me from point A to point B every day. I get a lot of utility out of eating chicken wings because they bring my taste buds a large amount of satisfaction. So here is diminishing marginal utility. If you guys haven't noticed by now, I love chicken wings. Like there's something wrong with me. I eat really healthy food. I don't eat dessert, don't drink soda, I exercise regularly. I don't always eat unhealthy, but when I do, I splurge on chicken wings. When it's an all-you-can-eat wing night at any common wing place, I am there consuming as many wings as I possibly can. All right, now the secret's out. Mr. Jarrett loves chicken wings. So here is the best example I can give you to illustrate diminishing marginal utility. The definition doesn't do too much for us. I feel like students only understand diminishing marginal utility when you hear it in an example. So here's the definition. The additional satisfaction, think utility, a consumer gets from purchasing one or more unit of a product will lessen, think diminishing, with each additional unit purchased. So here we go. Here I am. It's all you can eat wing night at Hooters. I go to Hooters, I sit down, and I order 10 barbecue wings. I consume those 10 barbecue wings, and my utility is high. Again, my satisfaction from that purchase. My utility is high. I am in heaven. Life is good. I am just chowing down on these wings. So the waitress comes back by. Can I get you 10 more chicken wings? Heck yes, you can get me 10 more chicken wings. And I order 10 Parmesan garlic chicken wings. And I devour them. I'm at 20 wings now. I'm feeling pretty good. So the waitress comes back by again. She's like, would you like 10 more wings, sir? And I'm like, of course I would. It's all you can eat wing night. I'm going to eat you all out of business. So I order 10 nuclear wings because I like spicy food. I eat 10 nuclear wings. And by now I'm on 30 wings. I'm getting pretty full. But it's all you can eat wing night. And I don't care. She comes back. Do you really want 10 more wings? Of course I want 10 more wings. So she brings in 10 more wings. And I eat 10 more wings. Now I'm on 40 wings, all right? So here's the thing. Here's diminishing marginal utility. There is no way that last order of wings was nearly as satisfying, gave me as much utility as the first order of wings. That is, as my consumption of wings increased, the satisfaction from each additional unit consumed, chicken wings in this case, was lessened. The first batch of wings was excellent. I loved them. The second batch of wings was also good, but I've already had 10 wings and it's still chicken wings. I'm maybe getting bored of eating chicken wings. The third batch, it's like, okay, I've already had 20 wings. I'm definitely full. I should stop now, but I order them anyway because, it's all you can eat wing night. And then by the fourth batch, I just have to pound them down because I'm not even enjoying it at this point because I'm so full, I'm getting tired of chicken wings. All right? So, of course, I hope you guys understand that the concept of diminishing marginal utility can be applied to more economic ideas than eating chicken wings. That's just a good introductory example. Okay, here's our LEQ in review. So first, we briefly reviewed voluntary exchange and some clarifications about the law of demand. Now, the real income effect, substitution effect, and diminishing marginal utility relate to the law of demand by explaining the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. In other words, these three factors kind of work behind the scenes of the law of demand. So why is it when price goes up, quantity demanded goes down? Well, it's because of one of these three factors. Why is it that when price goes down, quantity demanded goes up? Well, it's because of one of these three factors. All right. Now, on the topic of demand, the last thing I want you guys to understand is that when we're talking about demand, we are talking about the consumer side of the market. There are two forces at play here. They are the consumers who want the cheapest prices possible and the highest quality. Then there are the suppliers or the producers who want the highest possible profits at the least possible cost. So when we are talking about demand, we are only referring to the consumer side of the market. In a few days, when we start talking about supply, we will then be referring to the supplier side of the market. So that's just something I wanted you guys to know for any clarification. Look, I know this is a long video. Tomorrow's video is also going to be a little bit longer. I appreciate you guys sticking through to the end. I know you all are busy. I really do appreciate you taking the time watching these videos. I'll see you all in class tomorrow. And thank you once again.